catching fire, endless repairs, and breakdowns that happen almost immediately after sale. These are some of the reported risks you take if you buy a used car. Some Talking Point viewers wrote in to ask us to investigate the used car market. Roger Poe said 99% of the used cars advertised have not a single document to back up claims of maintenance. And Lester Yam wanted us to look into the reliability and safety of used cars in Singapore.
So in this episode, I'm getting to the bottom of what's happening in the used car industry. And is it worth the hassle buying a second-hand car?
3 years ago, Anderson Ang bought a 10-year-old BMW 3 Series for 56,000 Singapore dollars. But he found himself paying more than $6,000 for repairs just weeks later.
So Anderson, is this the car we were talking about?
No, Stephen. The car, I sold it off already. It was hell of an experience.
Why was it such a bad experience?
I would say in the first 3 months, the car went back to the workshop for at least a good 6 to 7 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Each time it went back, it could be a range of like a few days to a week.
When did you start discovering that there were things wrong with the car?
I started discovering it maybe about 1 to 2 weeks after I purchased it. It started to show some weird symptoms, such as you can't accelerate past 3,000. Once you accelerate past 3,000 RPM, the car starts to shudder a bit.
Yeah.
And then one day that happened, and the car broke down right in the middle of the road.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
When I was on my way to work.
So obviously you went back to the shop that you bought it from, right?
That's correct, because they are supposed to give the 6 months engine and gearbox warranty. They took about 2-3 months just to repair it, but every time after they repair something, I drive out, there's still some other issues coming back up. And apparently, after they repair, there's still oil leakage and all that could be seen. The breakdown didn't happen just once.
Oh,
It happened
okay.
multiple times.
Oh, okay.
I forked out money on my own to get it repaired properly. It's about 3,000 plus for engine overhaul,
Okay.
which was quite expensive. Considering I got a car for a short period of time. Apparently, apart from the engine issue that requires engine overhaul, the workshop, they also found out that there's a big welding mark right across the car body.
Oh,
Yeah.
welding mark. Okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, it could.
So welding mark possibly could be a scrap car where they go to the scrap yard and just purchase parts and then maybe weld the car back together. I actually got some images on it.
Oh yeah,
of
yeah.
it as
Can I
well.
take a look?
You can see it's very clear.
Okay.
It's like cut half across the car body. Basically told me that it's like well maintained, driven by a lady driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, low mileage, all these kind
Okay,
of things. Then when I sent to workshop as well, there's no fault codes as well. I thought that it's a rather good condition car.
Yeah.
Yeah, but however, on hindsight, I just suspect that they probably have cleared the fault codes using the diagnostic machine and whatnot.
As in they altered the fault codes
Yeah,
to
possibly.
make a fault show up as no fault.
Yes, that's correct.
I can't imagine what Anderson had to go through after putting down tens of thousands of dollars for a used car. And he mentioned a few shady practices, things like, altering fault codes, possibly even welding together 2 old cars. I actually wonder if these are common practices in the used car industry.
Royston So is the CEO of a dealership that sells well over 1,000 used cars every year. I'm meeting him to get some inside information.
So I met a guy who bought a used car and he told me how he felt they had been altered, the fault codes, and there was even parts where the car was supposedly welded together. Is this quite common?
This is definitely not common in the industry.
Okay. This fault code, for instance, how easy is it to alter it?
Let me show you.
Okay.
So you see here is a standard diagnostic system.
Yeah.
As you can see, the vehicle has already detected a fault.
Boom, wow, ABS, EPS, it says there's a fault.
So we are able to engineer the fault here. Now all we need to do
Yeah?
is to erase the fault code, just like that.
Oh yeah,
A
there's
quick,
actually a box saying quick erase.
yeah, just a quick button on that,
Wow.
and the fault code is gone. And some of the errand dealers actually will be able to print this out and show the customer before they purchase a vehicle.
Oh, okay, but the fault isn't really removed, right? It's still there.
Yes, in the example that we just raised, when we restart the vehicle and if we were to do another scan, the fault will come back. So most mistakes don't actually stay covered in a period of time.
The other guy, Matt, also said his car was possibly welded together. And is it bad to have parts of a car welded together?
Well, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Some cars are due for wear and tear in most cases. As long as the integrity of the vehicle is not compromised, such as the chassis or even the suspension and axles, the car is still fit for driving.
Let me show you some photos of what I got from the guy I met.
While I cannot comment on the background of this vehicle, but these do actually look very bad.
Why is it bad?
As you can see, the floorboard here is being knocked in place and there's some like an adhesive area around the edges over here. You can see that instead of having a proper welding, there's actually putty all over the corners here. It wasn't treated very well and rust has started to form.
I see. So normally when it's welded, it should be a clean cut.
It should be a clean cut.
And they should replace it with a new piece of material.
Yes.
This one looks like they just patched the holes.
That's right, yes. Some of them could even have a shoddy work in their paintwork. Let me show you.
Okay.
Come over here and you can see, you should be able to see a rust spot over here.
Oh, this looks like they patched up something and painted over it.
That's right. Let's play a game right now.
Okay. So what's this game? Do I get to win a car?
So right here, we have two cars
Yeah.
of similar model, similar age, and probably the similar price when they were brand new. I want you to guess which is the more expensive of these two.
Ooh, wow, they look exactly the same. I'm just gonna take a quick peek. They really do look exactly the same. Based on what I'm seeing, I gotta say it's really hard to tell. But I think this car on my right is the more expensive one.
Actually, it's the one on the left.
Oh, and why is that?
So one of the main differentiators that we do here is the one with the lower mileage. It will be priced a little bit higher.
How much lower is the mileage?
For these two units that we are comparing right now, it's a difference of $2,000,
Oh, and the price difference?
around $2,000.
But what if this had 50,000 more on the mileage?
Definitely the price difference will be bigger in that sense. So there have been stories of dealers doing odometer rollbacks as well.
Oh, rollback, what do you mean?
So it just shows that the vehicle traveled less kilometers than it actually did.
Even though it traveled 100,000, they clock it as 20,000.
Perhaps.
And all these things done, I'm guessing, to increase the value of the car, right?
Yes, pretty much.
So why share with me all this information which one might deem sort of industry secrets?
I won't call them industry secrets, but most of the used car dealers are actually legitimate and proper. We just don't want some bad eggs to actually spoil our reputation.
A quick check on sites advertising used cars show that many are listed as well-maintained. Oh look, one ad even listed the car as being in pristine condition, and yet another in tip-top condition. But as I found out, there could be some errant dealers out there. So I've hatched a plan. I found 3 cars listed as well-maintained from across the island. All are family-sized sedans or SUVs, the most popular types of cars in Singapore. Sia Cheng Po conducts around 360 pre-purchase inspections every year. He does it at Vicom, one of Singapore's leading vehicle inspection centres approved by the Land Transport Authority. He's going to tell me if these pre-owned cars are indeed well maintained.
So very often I hear people saying how the used car is well maintained. What does that actually mean?
Okay, well maintained to me is the car must have a clean service record and make sure the car is roadworthy and timely replace all the service parts like change of engine oil filter, air filter, brake pad, etc.
Okay.
And also we should go for regular washing and waxing to maintain the car paintwork as well.
Wow, even washing and waxing,
Yes, it does play a part.
That I'm surprised.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, the regular servicing, that makes sense. But you mentioned roadworthiness.
Yes.
What does that mean?
You have to make sure that all the lighting is functioning, the alignment, brake, headlight, and emission are sound, and all the undercarriage components must be no sign of wear and tear, no sign of leakage, and no sign of any illegal modification.
It will take a while before I get the results of the pre-purchase inspection tests of the 3 used cars. Meanwhile, I've been scheduled to test drive another pre-owned car for sale to see if I'm able to spot for myself warning signs before committing to a purchase.
I guess I should also do things like brake a little bit. To own a car in Singapore, you need to buy a COE or Certificate of Entitlement, and it allows you to keep the car for 10 years. Now, my car's over 50 years old, but I still have to renew the COE every 10 years. And this past year, COE prices reached dizzying heights of over $100,000 in April 2023 for small cars of 1.5cc and below.
The result? Car buyers turning to second-hand cars because, well, they're just a cheaper option these days. Take, for example, this 2018 Honda Civic, your average family sedan. With 5 years left to drive before the COE expires, this used car has a listing price close to 90,000 Singapore dollars. But if I get a new one now, whoa, that would be above $180,000. The depreciation also works out to be more than $2,000 worth of savings a year. But while there are cost savings in buying a used car, figures from the Consumers Association of Singapore show that complaints against them have also steadily risen from 156 cases in 2020 to 229 cases in 2022. That's a 46% increase. Most of the complaints were motor dealers making misleading or false claims about the car. So I'm going to investigate what to look out for when purchasing a used car. Julian Koh has spent 13 years reviewing cars, including used ones.
Hey guys, hey Julian. Hello,
Hey, Stephen, how's it going, man? How are you?
And today, he's invited me for a test drive of this 5-year-old Honda Civic that's selling for around 100,000 Singapore dollars. Han Xiang is the man selling this used car.
Han Xiang here will be able to answer any questions you've got, man.
Okay.
I'll be evaluating you.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Let's go.
Okay, first check. The IU unit is working.
It is.
No. And I guess I should also do things like brake a little bit.
Right.
See if aircon's cool. Guess let's check the rear. But otherwise, it feels good. I mean, everything seems to be working, you know.
Yep.
The signal works, is the light
The
working?
lights.
Okay, shall we pop the hood? Sure. Let me see whether there are any leaks. Everything's intact. Pipes look like they're in good shape. Okay.
The test drive and my own inspection lasted just under an hour, but I'm not sure if I'm thorough enough.
You did quite a good job. I think you covered most ground, but there was some stuff that I thought you left out.
Okay.
Right, so before coming into the car, you didn't really check the exterior of the car, really. Are my rims all right? Are there any rust? Are the panel nicely fixed together? Are there any gaps? Because these are sort of stuff that will tell you whether or not the car has been in an accident before.
Accidents could mean that other parts of the car were affected and not fixed, potentially affecting its overall performance.
So that's the first thing, right? The second thing is you didn't check the back seat either. I mean, I was there, right? Because you have a rear air conditioning system as well, so you want to check if that's working. You want to check if
I didn't even know there was a rear conditioning system. So I should ideally sit in every seat.
If possible,
feel, right?
yeah, sit in every seat. But I think you made a really good point when you tested the pedal shifters, you put it into sport mode. These are things that people often forget about. Stuff like this. But you missed out like meddling with the buttons on the steering wheel. And the one more thing I thought would have been good for you to test was whether or not your phone could have been properly connected to the infotainment system. I don't know about you, but that's really important to me because I don't want to be using my phone when I'm driving, so
No, of
use
course.
hands-free Bluetooth connection. I think that's really important.
Okay.
I would add on perhaps asking Han Xiang for servicing records.
Okay.
So you kind of want to know how well taken care of this car is, how well the previous owner took care of the car. I think you did well checking the engine bay. If you realize that you don't have like shiny glistening oil around sticking somewhere, you're pretty much safe. Another thing is, if there's leaks, if there are leaks underneath, like golden brown color or dark brown color, those are things you got to take note. So long as there's not a pool of them, you are pretty much safe.
Okay.
Actually, my best advice ever, which I did for all my used cars, was sort of build a relationship with the sales guy and sort of tell him, I'm gonna request to have you bring down the car to the workshop that I visit all the time, that I trust.
Right.
And then when it's there, get the mechanic to do a full check if there's any major problems, if there's any leaks.
I've got some good tips for if I ever wanted to test drive a used car. This leaves me with one last thing to check on: the fate of the 3 used cars that were sent for inspection earlier.
First one is about 4 years old car. It appeared to have some body panel touch-up work.
Transacting tens of thousands of dollars should motivate anyone to do the proper checks. But it's not that easy with a car. There are documents from previous servicing and maintenance, vehicle log cards, as well as insurance papers to pour through.
Surely there has to be a better way.
There is a law that is meant to protect consumers against buying lemons or defective products. It's literally called the Lemon Law. It allows consumers to make a claim from the seller for a defective product within 6 months of purchase. But how useful is the Lemon Law really? I'm hoping lawyer Vijay Pawani can tell me.
The Lemon Law is an act which basically protects consumers for all sorts of items. It ranges from your vacuum cleaner, kitchen equipment, to even cars. Now, if the car, for instance, could not start on the day you picked up the car, it's easy, whether it's under the Sale of Goods Act or under the Lemon Law, to show that the car is defective, right?
Okay.
But what happens with the passage of time? 3 months, 4 months down the road, and then the defect appears. Now, that becomes a bit tricky because it's difficult for the consumer to show that the defect had existed at the time of delivery.
Okay, so in that case, the burden is on the dealer, the shop I bought it from, for those 6 months to kind of rectify whatever might go wrong, because the assumption is that the car should have been in good condition.
If he is not able to rebut that presumption, then there is a possible claim against the dealer. Now, in that case, the dealer will then have basically 4 options, what I would call the 4 R's. He is to either repair, replace, and if that cannot be done, then consider a reduction in price to take into account the diminution in value of the vehicle because of the defect. Or finally, if that cannot be agreed upon between parties, then perhaps a refund of the price. But it's very important to note that the Lemon Law covers C2B, consumer to business.
Okay.
It does not cover consumer to consumer. It does not cover business to business. So it's imperative when the consumer is buying the vehicle to firstly make sure that the seller of the vehicle is the dealership itself. There have been cases where, although the vehicle has been advertised by the dealership, the sales agreement reflects the name of, and say, an employee of the dealership as a seller. The consumer's got to be wary of such situations.
Okay, because that becomes a person-to-person,
Consumer to consumer.
consumer,
That's
and
right.
then the Lemon Law doesn't apply.
The Lemon Law will not kick in. Secondly, it's also very important if the defect was made known to you at the time of delivery. For example, there's a problem with the clutch. When you start moving, it's a 7-8-year-old car. You, perhaps being a very experienced chap in the motor industry, says, never mind, it's okay, I'll buy it at a lower price. I'll get it done in my own workshop.
Okay.
But unfortunately, assuming your workshop can't get it repaired, you can't bring it back to the dealer and say, hey, look, there was a problem.
All right.
Right? Because you knew of the defect at the time of delivery. Now, you must also remember that there is a prescribed limit of 30,000 under the Lemon Law.
Okay.
Okay, now what this means is that if there was a claim, for example, a hybrid battery case, if the repair cost was above 30,000, the consumer may have to abandon the balance of his claim and then claim only up to 30,000.
While the Lemon Law offers basic protection, it does have its limitations. Meanwhile, it's been 5 days and I'm back at Vicom Bukit Batok to get the results for our pre-purchase inspection tests of 3 supposedly well-maintained used cars.
Okay, so I'm eager to find out what did the inspection reveal.
The first one is about 4 years old car. It appeared to have some body panel touch-up work. Overall, it's still roadworthy. There's no mechanical issue.
Okay.
Right? Everything to be sound.
So this from 2019. Okay.
Yes.
So roadworthy, just a bit of paint work.
The second one is the 2 years old car, and this
Okay.
car generally should be perfect. There's no major thing. Payment original. Everything sound. Everything will be in order.
Okay, so this is normal working condition.
Everything will be in all acceptable condition.
Okay.
Right? No sign of rework job done. And
quite new,
moreover,
right?
the model is a very low one, less than 10,000.
Okay.
The last one is the OPC car. OPC car, that one is about 5 years old car.
OPC
It's
car.
an off-peak car. Even though it's 5 years old car, but the model is still reasonably low, about 31,000. Because probably due to the restriction of usage. Generally, this car also no issue, except the paintwork. There's a refurbished paintwork on the whole car, probably due to the faded paintwork. So dealer will do a overall touch-up of this vehicle.
I see.
It's really common for what dealer practice in the market.
Okay.
Dealer usually they do some cosmetic in order to make the car more presentable.
So these cars, if they put in the listing that it's well maintained, will you agree with that?
Yes.
So for the 3 cars, did you notice anything a bit dodgy, a bit shady, like they try and remove the fog coats, reverse back the mileage?
No, everything appeared to be normal.
Okay. So I'm actually glad to know that these 3 used cars that were described as well-maintained actually are. So perhaps the bad stories we hear about used car salesmen, they're just a few rotten eggs in the industry. That said, if I ever wanted to buy a used car, I'd be sure to give it a thorough inspection. Also ask for all the relevant servicing documents. Maybe even a pre-inspection. But do note that dealers will often ask for a non-refundable deposit, so be sure you really want that car before asking for the inspection.